Tell me where sentimental love is born, in the head or in the heart? How is it conceived or and nurtured? Reply. Answer this question. It is born in the eyes. Love is born in the eyes, and it is nourished by gazing at the object of love. But sentimental, foolish love dies in the eyes, never reaching the heart. That means if the love is just out of infatuation, that means it's just a sentimental or foolish love, it will die in the eye itself, and it will never reach the heart of the person whom you love. Let us ring the death bell of such infatuation. I will begin it, ding dong bell. That means I shall ring the first bell, ding dong bell. So now let's continue with Bassanio's dialogue. Children, please keep your textbook in front, as I may not be able to read each and every line from your textbook. For simple and modern for explanation in simple and modern English, it is displayed on your screen. Bassanio. The outward appearance of an object is not a reliable index of its true quality. It is usual for people to judge things by their external decoration. So here Bassanio is saying that things may be completely different from what they appear to be, and this way the world is cheated by external appearance or decoration. So he gives example of a law case where no matter how foul and dishonest an argument may be, but the lawyer, an eloquent lawyer, can give the appearance of truth in law by a pleasing voice. That is, he can conceive the foul and dishonest argument with pleasing voice. Same way, he gives one more example of religion, that is, in matters of religion, even an impious person, or according to the impious theory, is given a sacred character by a pious looking priest. That is, a grave looking person. Okay, if he is in religion, sinful errors can be overlooked if a grave looking person. Now here grave looking person means a person who is a priest or a bishop, or at least he has put up an image of being a very holy or a pious person, will support and confirm it. That is, he will confirm that sinful error or an impious theory by giving examples from scriptures, that is holy books, for hiding the ugliness with beautiful words. No vice is so bad that it has no outward resemblance to virtue. That means even the most simple vice has some outward resemblance to virtue. And evil can always be dressed in attractive colors to deceive people. Then he gives example of cowards in this world who have no strength in them, like steps of sand. Now steps of sand means stairs which are made of sand, so definitely they are unreliable and you cannot step on those sand. But such people, such cowards in this world, they wear beards upon their chins like the Greek hero Hercules, and the fighting skill of Mars, but their cowardice is exposed when it comes to a test. That means when we examine their inner qualities, we find livers which are white as milk. So here the livers as white as milk means, or the reference is, a coward person. So when we examine their inner qualities, or when we put when their qualities are exposed, or when it comes to a test, we come to know that they have livers white as milk. That means they are completely or absolutely coward people. They only possess the outward growth of valor, that is, a beard, to give them the appearance of fearful warriors. So, he's by this example of coward people, he's trying to say that that the entire world is deceived by the external appearance, and same way the cowards, they grow beard on their chins to have an appearance of a fearful warrior, that is, to make themselves look like courageous Hercules or fighting skill of Mars. But when their test is being exposed, or when it comes to a test, or when their inner qualities are being examined, we come to know that they are coward. Consider beauty. It can be bought with money. So now he's saying that beauty can be bought with money. Money can buy weight beautifying objects at a chemist shop. That means you can buy those things, you can easily purchase by weight from a chemist shop things which will make you or help you to enhance your beauty, or which will help you to make you look beautiful or more beautiful. It then works wonders and transforms the users. But the wearers of the heaviest makeup do not become heavier, but are the lightest. That is, it's a strange contradiction in nature that those who make use of these beauty aids appear to be the brightest. They appear brightest or beautiful from outside, but they are the ones who are the most immoral. It is same with some curly, winding and golden hair which a woman has bought with money. The tresses, that is the locks, the curly, winding golden hair, comparable to snakes, may play beautifully with the wind. So now here he is giving the case, or he is giving the example of those curly, long, winding golden locks of hair which play wantonly with the wind over a face supposed to be beautiful, but are often known to have grown on the head of some other woman who is dead and lies buried in her grave. That means here we are talking about the wig which is made from the woman who has been dead, long dead, and now she is lying buried in her grave. That means that wig belongs to a woman who is dead. It does not belong to the woman wearing it. A man would no doubt be fascinated by the beautiful hair. Now here, beautiful golden winding curly hair resembles outer beauty, but then actually it does not belong, or it does not belong to the woman who is wearing it. Any man with no doubt will get fascinated by this beautiful hair which the woman is wearing, but actually it is not real. It's just a wig, it's just a beauty product which has been purchased easily by weight from a shop. Thus, external decoration proves deceptive, which can be compared with a treacherous shore to a dangerous sea. So he's saying that this way the decoration and the external beauty are only the treacherous shore of a dangerous sea. Or it may be compared with a splendid colored veil that hides the dark face of an Indian beauty. Now here Indian, we are talking about those red Indians. So he's saying that the external decoration or beauty is just deceptive, same way like how a colorful, beautiful veil can hide the dark face of an Indian beauty. That is a black face, or face of a red Indian who are black. So a beautiful, colorful veil can cover the face of an Indian beauty. So in short, he's saying that external ornament is undependable, unreliable. You cannot depend or rely, or you cannot trust someone on the basis of external appearance. It is used by clever, deceitful persons to mislead and throw dust into the eyes of even the most experienced people. So he's saying that clever and deceitful person, they use this beauty to fool or mislead even the most experienced people. That is, even the most experienced people will get misled or deceived by this external beauty. Therefore, you showy gold, which proved to be such a difficult food for Midas, I will not take you, nor do I want to have anything to do with you, pale silver. So, this way, Bassanio rejects the first casket, that is the gold casket, saying that the gold or the external appearance is just deceitful. The glittering gold proved a hard food for King Midas. We all know the story of King Midas, the golden touch, where he was blessed with this wish that whatever he touches, or whatever object or whatever things he touch, will get turned or converted into gold. And then he goes like initially in the beginning he is very happy, but then his daughter comes and hugs him, and she also gets turned or converted into gold. So this way, that glittering gold, it proved a hard food. Now why hard food? Because he couldn't eat anything, because whatever he used to touch used to get get converted into gold. So he's saying that this glittery gold was a hard food for King Midas also. So I will not get deceived by this external glitter or external beauty, which he is referring to the gold, and this way he rejects the gold casket. Then he goes on to say that I will not have anything to do with you, pale silver. That is, he rejects, or he says that he will not choose the silver, which is a very pale and pale color, an ordinary slave passing from man to man. Now what do you mean by ordinary slave or man to man? Now, silver, which was a common means of exchange between man and men, that silver coins which were used for as an exchange between man and man. So this way he rejects the gold as well as the silver casket. Once again, gold on the basis of outward appearance or outward external appearance or beauty, which he says or which he feels that it is nothing but deceitful, and silver on the basis that it's a very pale color, and also it's a common means of exchange between man and man. It's a very common metal. Instead, I will choose you, ordinary lead or ordinary lead, which who is threatening rather than promising anything. So now why he is saying that lead is threatening rather than promising? Because of the inscription which is written on the lead casket, that is, like, whoever chooses the lead, he has to uh, you know uh, risk or hazard, rather than it is not assuring or it is not promising anything. So it just threatens, it rather threatens than promises. So your blunt message attracts me. The blunt message or the dangerous message, or you could say the threatening message which is written on the lead, attracts Bassanio more than any eloquent words can do, and I choose you. And this way he chooses the lead casket. So here I select this lead casket. May it bring joy to me. That means he is kind of wishing himself that since he has chosen the lead casket should bring him happiness, joy. Next, Portia. How all the other passions fleet to air, as doubtful thoughts and rash embraced despair, and shuddering fear and green-eyed jealousy. O love, be moderate, hold back your thrills, thy ecstasy. So now here Portia is saying that all other passions vanish into thin air. Emotions like feelings of doubt, despair, assumed too quickly, terrifying fear, and the green eyed monster, jealousy. they all evaporate into the air. Now all the other passions means she's talking about the all other emotions. Like till now she had this feeling of doubt, she had this feeling of anxiety, she was in despair, you know, and fear and jealousy. So all these emotions have now quickly vanished into thin air, and let my love be calm and tone down its rapture. Now she's saying, oh love, be moderate in your joy, because she cannot hold or she cannot take this excessive pleasure. Now since she is aware that lead is the right casket and just Bassanio has made a right choice, now she is feeling so, she's in ecstasy, that is she's so excited and she's in so excessive happiness that she's telling love to be moderate and to fall on her moderately. Send down the joy within limits. She wants this joy, this happiness to be in limits, because she cannot take that excess of happiness. Make it less, for I fear that I would suffer from excess. Now she is saying that make this pleasure less or make this happiness less, because she is scared that she couldn't take so much of it, that is she would suffer from the excess. Now she'll feel disgust from an excess of it.